Hey guys, so recently it was Men's Fashion Week in London and that kind of inspired me to do some customization of some clothes. So in this video I'm going to show you how I took a plain black hoodie and I've added a blue polka dot lining to it and some side panels as well. Now by no means is this a tutorial, it's just me showing you how I went about doing things. When I first started using the sewing machine, what I would do is get an already finished product like a hoodie or a boiler suit, take it apart and add some material to the top of it or a new lining and then sew it back together again. It's a really good way just to get used to using a sewing machine or seeing how different types of clothes are put together and working with different fabrics. Now for the most part of this video I'm actually going to be using an overlocker because I was lucky enough to be given one by my friend. And the difference between an overlocker and a sewing machine is that an overlocker sews right up to the edge because it cuts the fabric as it goes through. Now, if you don't have access to an overlocker, you can achieve a similar effect with a sewing machine, but it just might not be as neat. But this is all about experimenting anyway, and as I said, the end result isn't perfect, it's just about seeing what you can come up with. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about a photo shoot that I've just finished editing with a clothing brand that I did last year. The clothing brand is called Forever Roundless, so make sure you stick around the end to find out the details about that. And as always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it and subscribe, and you can find me on places like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, or /FlashYourJack. Okay guys, see you next time. So what I have here is the black hoodie that I bought and the material that I'm going to be lining it with. I bought 1.5 meters for the actual hoodie and then an extra meter for the side panels later on. So to begin with, what I'm doing is taking a pair of scissors and I'm cutting a hole just underneath the armpit to give me an area to start working from. Then I'm using a stitch unpicker to start unpicking all the stitches in the hoodie, down underneath the sleeve, down the whole sleeve, on the hood and down on the panels of the back, but not against the waistband at the bottom. I'm leaving the 3 panels that make up the body still connected to the bottom waistband. Occasionally, on some areas I use the scissors just for speed as well, but you want to be careful not to cut any of the fabric away. The next thing I'm going to do is using the scissors cut the hood away, but still leaving it connected to the zips. So I'm taking my scissors and going around the base of the hood. Once I've cut the hood away from the body, I'm using my scissors again because the hood is actually lined with an inner and outer part. So I'm using the scissors now just to cut the inner section away from the hood. Now, this hood has a drawstring through it as well, and I'm not cutting that piece open, so I'm cutting on the inside of the drawstring area. Once I've cut all the panels out, you'll see here that I'm left with 2 sleeves, 2 cuffs, the inner hood, and the body, which has been divided into 4 sections, which is the hood, the left panel, the right panel and the back panel. The 3 panels are still connected to the bottom and they're still connected to the zip. With panels like the sleeve, which are completely separate, you can go ahead and line them straight away. Pin them to the fabric, roughly cut around them and put them through the sewing machine, thus trimming away any excess. Now it's time to attach the zip panel to the fabric. So as you can see, I'm lining the zip up with the polka dots to create a straight line. I've also moved the zip out of the way. Now if you fold the zip over, you'll see the seam where they've attached the zip themselves, and that's the part that we're going to be sewing onto. So you want to fold that out and then pin it to the fabric. Keep pinning all the way up, and if it wrinkles, just readjust it, and if you need to unpin it and do it again, then just do it until it's as flat as possible. Then I'm going to roughly cut around the fabric. You don't need to be precise because you can trim the excess off afterwards, and as I said, I'm using an overlocker, so it'll be trimmed away. With the waistband, I'm not going to sew over that, so I'm leaving that bit blank and I'm going to sew right down to it. Put your fabric up to the sewing machine or overlocker, and you can see here I'm using the foot and aligning it against the black thread that's already on the zip. You want to just have something that you can mark against to keep straight lines whilst you're sewing. As well, where it's difficult to sew, where the fabric folds or joins, I'm going to manually turn the wheel just because I don't want to bend the needles or anything like that. Once you have finished sewing, you might notice that you missed a bit by accident and you've left a hole. You can easily just go back in over that and sew it back down again. As you can see, I've left the waistband free, and just like the zip, the area where they sew this together is exposed, so I'm just folding that over and I'm going to sew along that edge. Once you've done that and you've sewn all the panels together, you should be left with something like this. Now's a great time just to go and get rid of any excess threads that you may have left. So go with some scissors and just chop all those off just so they're out of the way. With that completed, you want to start work on the shoulders. You're going to pin those together and sew along the lines that make up the shoulder pieces, which will leave you the arch on the sleeve where we can start sewing the sleeve to. When you've done that, get the sleeve, fold it in half so you can work out the middle and begin to pin it to the rest. You may not get it right the first time, but all you need to do is just repin it until it's as equal as possible. There are two ways you can do this next bit, which is either to cut the cuff in half or to sew the end of the sleeve together and put the cuff over the top of the sleeve like I'm doing here. When you've got that together, you're going to take it to the sewing machine and thread it underneath the foot of the sewing machine and spin it round until it's all sewn on. After that, I'm going to get you to cut the cuff in half so the sleeve opens back up again, just as it's shown here. We're going to be working with this open slit to add in the side panels that I talked about earlier. I'm taking some fabric similar to what the hoodie's made out of and cutting out a piece longer than the length of under the sleeve and down the side panel of the body. I'm cutting this about 2 inches long. With those panels cut out, I'm doing the same amount of the material as well, and I'm lining it on both sides. Next, I'm going to pin it down the length of the sleeve and side of the body. You can see here that the top edge that's going on the sleeve, I've already folded that over and gone over it with the zigzag stitch on the sewing machine. This is just to give it a neat edge before I sew it down. Once you've sewn both sides onto the complete garment, you just want to finish it off at the bottom doing a zigzag stitch there as well. Here I've got the hood and I'm folding it in half because we want to work with the inside seam. You'll see here that I'm taking a piece of coloured fabric to demonstrate that the inner panel of the hood that we had before is now too small to work with. Once you've lined it and then cut it and put it back to the hood, it'll be about 1 inch too small. So using that same inner fabric that I used for the side panel a moment ago, I'm going to create a new inner hood piece. You can either do this with some material similar to the hoodie or just any kind of material will do. So I'm going to cut that out about 1 inch bigger than the inner hood was, and I'm going to line that with the same fabric that I have been doing all the way through. You can see now it's a much better fit than it previously was. Once it's lined, I'm going to fold it in half and sew again that outer edge that makes the hood shape. To connect this to the hood, what I'm going to do is sew along the bottom, the straight edge that connects the hood to the body, and then I'm going to pin the hood to the inside of the outer panel of the hood. Now this time I'm going to sew it, but I'm using the sewing machine and a zigzag thread going along the drawstring line but not covering the drawstring. And once you've done that, all that's left to do is to sew the hood back onto the main part of the body, trim away any excess threads, and you should be all finished and your hoodie should be complete. You should be left with your finished product, which is your lined hoodie, all the sleeves and hood done, and the side panels as well. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was a lot more difficult than I'd originally planned out, and when I first started, I wasn't actually going to put these side panels in, but it was smaller than I was expecting. But the main thing is that you just have an experiment, and even if you're messing it up, just carry on, see what you can do to fix it, and you never know, it might actually turn out better than you originally intended it to. Right, so last thing for this video then, as I said, I've just finished editing some photos that I did for a fashion brand called Forever Endless, and I've uploaded those to my photography Facebook page, which is Jack Flash Photography, Jack without a C. So check that out on Facebook. I'll leave a link in the description down below, as well as all the links to my Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, which are all /FlashYourJack. Make sure to check me out, guys, say hello, and I'm going to do some new makeup videos coming this week as well, which I'm pretty excited about, so stay tuned, check those out, and I'll see you guys soon.